This is especially true since they actually make up most of the size of your arms. Let's take a look at Bob on the left and Billy on the right. Billy will see better triceps growth due to the various technical aspects of the movement. The first and probably the most common mistake is letting other muscles take over and steal tension from the triceps during pushdowns, for example. And the three main culprits for this are the lats, shoulders, and forearms. If you're letting your elbows excessively sway forward and back during the movement, then all you're doing is involving more of the lats. Bring your elbows down to your side and keep them locked and pinned to your side throughout the movement. You can now visually see how the triceps take on the majority of the load while the involvement of the lats is minimized. Letting the forearms take over is a little harder to catch, but is just as common, especially when the bar attachment is used. And this happens when you flex your wrist as you push the weight down, which not only shifts tension away from the triceps, but also puts your wrist at a mechanical disadvantage and stresses the elbow joint as well. Instead, you want to keep the wrist in a neutral position relative to your forearms in order to both increase wrist stability and elicit a stronger contraction from the triceps. And finally, another common error people make is slowly leaning forward and rounding their back as they begin to fatigue or when they use a weight that's too heavy. This actually causes the elbows to widen, which not only creates a favorable leverage to make each rep easier for you, but it also shifts tension away from the triceps and more so onto the shoulders and even the chest. Instead, you want to properly set up by sticking your chest up and out, retract your shoulder blades, pin your elbows to the side, and maintain this position as you perform each rep. Another costly yet common mistake is failing to maximize the tension placed on the triceps during your exercises. For example, during lying overhead extensions or skull crushers, if you're performing the movement with your arms locked directly overhead, then you're not maximizing the tension that's placed on the triceps. In fact, the triceps experience very little tension at the top part of the movement. So instead, applying the findings from this 2006 biomechanical analysis that greater degrees of shoulder elevation provides a greater stretch on the long head of the triceps, you want to move your arms slightly back, lock your arms here, and then proceed to perform your reps. This way, you provide more stretch on the long head of the triceps. During tricep pushdowns, a lot of people tend to stand too close to the cables with their body positioned completely upright. But with this setup, your range of motion is now compromised and becomes limited since your hips get in the way at the bottom position. And in addition, the tension of the triceps at the bottom becomes minimal due to the direction of the cable relative to the forearm. Just take one or two small steps away from the cable, slightly hinge at the hips, and then perform the movement with your elbows pinned to your side. Doing so will slightly increase the range of motion of the exercise and enable the triceps to reach their peak contraction when you're at the bottom position. There's no doubt that heavy compound pressing exercises will provide the most bang for your buck. This is mainly because you're able to overload them more effectively and lift much heavier loads with them when compared to isolation exercises. And this is especially important for triceps growth since research indicates that the triceps are composed mostly of type 2 muscle fibers, which are theorized to be best stimulated by using heavy weight. And two great pressing exercises that you should incorporate and prioritize for these reasons are the close grip bench press and the barbell overhead press. The close grip bench press is a great option because as shown in this 2005 paper from the Journal of Strength and Conditioning Research, the bench press on its own already elicits very high triceps activity. But by narrowing your hand spacing, you're able to shift more of the load to the triceps and hence produce even greater triceps muscle activity. However, just note that going too close often does more harm than good, so sticking to roughly shoulder width apart would be the best option to avoid discomfort while still maximizing triceps activation. It was shown in this 2013 paper from the Journal of Strength and Conditioning Research to elicit the greatest triceps activity when compared to other shoulder press variations. And with that being said, weighted dips are another great exercise that could definitely be added to this list as well. And then, as needed, use isolation exercises afterwards to fit in more triceps volume to further stimulate growth.